Hey everyone, this is Reviews at Ryan, and today in the channel I'm going to be doing a review roundup of 6 different movies that I've watched recently. And before we get into that though, if you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button, give the video a like, and comment below what do you guys think about these movies, if you have seen any of them, all of them, or just some of them. And if you haven't checked them out, do my reviews really interest you in checking them out? So stick around and let's talk about them. So the first movie that I checked out was Shortcomings. This stars Justin Min, Ali Maki, Sherry Cola, and Debbie Ryan in a small role, and is directed by Randall Park. He has directed Fresh Off the Boat. He's been an actor and he's been in some other stuff, but his main thing is Fresh Off the Boat. And this movie, it really follows Ben, played by Justin Min. He has his girlfriend actually break up with him, and then you have Sherry Cola in here as like the best friend, and they are basically just having a personal relationships that they're kind of going through, and it really just follows each of them trying to navigate their world and what they want to do in their life. And mainly Justin Min here, his character name is Ben. He really struggles when his girlfriend actually breaks up with him, and he's having trouble really connecting with anyone. And it's very interesting throughout this movie where he is trying to find some type of girlfriend or find some type of connection, and he has some trouble really doing so. And there's some interesting scenes that he goes through and some interesting women that he meets. This movie, it has some little bit of comedy. I would say it's more so a drama film, but I really did like it. I like seeing people kind of go through their own personal growth and just, trying to navigate throughout life, because, when somebody breaks up with you like that, it can be a wake-up call. And Ben also, he really takes things very seriously. He's very reluctant to date another race, and he's really constantly worried about what other people think about interracial relationships. So those topics are brought up here, and it's just kind of really discovering yourself. Like, every character in this film is just trying to discover yourself, and I actually really enjoyed it. I would give it a score of a 3.5 out of 5. Next up is Totally Killer. Now, this is on Amazon Prime. It is a comedy horror film, and it stars Kristen Shipka. You may know her from the Sabrina the Teenage Witch series on Netflix. This film, it definitely has a Back to the Future vibe. It has a freaky vibe. It basically is about this mass killer who comes back and ends up killing a family member of Jamie's, and she goes back in time into a Back to the Future kind of style where she's trying to stop the killer. Now, this film, it definitely had some comedic moments. The horror, it's kind of on the back burner. I wouldn't say the horror moments in here are really that great. The whole mask kind of looks like a Johnny Bravo mask is what I would really relate it to. But, he's not scary or anything, or, he's just a guy in a mask, really. And really the whole involvement of who is behind these kills is kind of goofy. I didn't really care for the motives, and there's not a lot of horror moments. Like I said, there's a lot of comedy. Some of it lands, some of it doesn't. I would say most of it probably really doesn't most of the time, but I think for a streaming movie, it's an okay film, and I got through it okay. And I think it's worth a watch. If you are just bored and you want to watch something on streaming, it'll mildly entertain you. You may get a chuckle or two. You're not going to be scared or anything, and you may be a little bit disappointed by the ending. I felt the ending was kind of cheesy. I didn't really care for the ending that much. And also, the main character could get on your nerves because throughout this film, she travels back in time and she meets up with her mother and some of her old friends, and she's kind of being a mother as well. She's being very naggy and just kind of being over adult like, and it gets on these different kids' nerves and stuff like that. Some of those parts can be kind of annoying, I would say, but overall I thought this movie was an okay watch. It mildly entertained me, and it's a one-time watch. I would give it a 2.5 out of 5. Next up on my list is Till Death Do Us Part. It is a comedy horror film. It's directed by Timothy Woodward Jr., and he's done 2 other films that I've seen before called The Final Wish and The Call, and both of those are horror films, and they're absolutely horrible, so I do not recommend them. This film stars Natalie Byrne, Orlando Jones, and I believe it's pronounced Cam Guydendet. I think that's how you pronounce it. He's in Twilight, and the film, it is basically about this bride and groom that's going to get married, and the bride gets cold feet and she's like, nope, I don't want to get married. And she's at this place, and all the 7 groomsmen go there and they're trying to attack her, and they try to do it like as a Ready or Not style kind of film. There isn't a lot of really development with the bride and groom. It's pretty much like into the moment, like 10 minutes, they're already trying to get her. And it's only about a 90-minute film. And I have to say that this film, it's really, really boring. The comedy, it completely missed the landing. And they also have this whole like back scene where you have the bride and groom, and they apparently work for this agency, and they try to go this action route, and they throw that on top of the story, which is just absolutely horrible. It doesn't blend well at all. I found most times in this film where they just have too many talky moments, and they should be going after this bride, and just all the groomsmen, they have like no like charisma, I think, to them. The main guy, the Twilight dude, I'm just gonna call him, he's kind of like the leader, and none of the groomsmen have any names in here. When you go on IMDb, they just have groomsmen 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They don't have any names in here, so it's just, they're not really that important of characters. And the thing is, too, I thought this would be a very violent film, because if you look at the cover of the poster has a chainsaw, and it has to do with, I think, some of the directors involved with like Final Destination. So I was thinking it would be a little bit more cohesive of a movie. And I will say that the kills in here, they're pretty bad and pretty basic. There's only one good kill where she has this midget guy that has been just picking on her the entire time throughout the film. And she actually takes a chainsaw and she slashes him with the chainsaw, which is pretty cool. I like that, cutting him all up with the chainsaw. That's probably the best kill here. None of the characters are really that interesting. The bride, she's in the house, and they try to do the whole Ready or Not thing, but it's nothing close to that. Definitely stick to Ready or Not. I honestly would give this a half star out of 5. It's just really that bad. I honestly wasted a few dollars actually renting this, unfortunately. So I do not recommend this. It's on DVD now, and that's how I knew that this film actually existed. So definitely avoid this one like the plague. Next film that I watched is a romantic sci-fi film. It is called The Pod Generation. It's directed by Sophie Barth. I've never seen any of her films, but it stars Emilia Clarke and Chiwetel Ejiofor, I think that's how you pronounce his name. They are a couple, and they are trying to have a baby, and you have this tech giant, and you're in the future, and they are basically having these detachable wombs that they're putting into a pod, and they try to have a baby. And Emilia Clarke, she is signed up for this company, and her husband didn't really know that she was on the wait list, and she gets a call, and they're like, hey, we're going to make this happen. So they make it happen, and their baby just basically grows in this pod. But the film, it really touches on just how women have to really go through the process of trying to have a baby and how tough it can really be. And it has some commentary towards women, especially within their careers. One thing that they touched on here is there's a part in here where Emilia Clarke, she's at her job and she wants to have a baby. And they're really reluctant to really have her just have this baby because they think, oh, you're going to have your career all messed up. And I was just thinking to myself, a lot of things like that in jobs, they're not very supportive of people, going for what they want in life. And you definitely see that here. And I definitely felt like there were times in here where women, they're talked down to as, they can't be strong and they can't really, make decisions for themselves. And, these companies, they're trying to make decisions for themselves. And this company, too, it was very interesting how they just handled this whole process. I felt like there were times where the company was doing some wrong things, and we don't really explore too much into that. I definitely felt like there were things they were doing within the pods and like the experimenting where they don't really dive into it as much, and I really wanted them to dive into it. I will say I wouldn't recommend this for everybody because it's not a film that has like a ton of action, and it's dealing with people's emotions and just their wavelengths of how they feel about this pregnancy and just kind of going through the motions of what parenthood is going to be for this couple. And I will say by the time the film ends, there is sort of a wrap up in a way, but there's certain things with this company that I really wanted to dive into more, and they don't explore it as much as I wanted them to. But I think it's a solid enough film. I would give it a 3 out of 5, and I have to thank Anthony A. Perez for recommending this film, because if he wouldn't have reviewed it, I probably wouldn't have known about it. The next film on my list I saw is a film called The Bellkeeper. It is a horror film and is directed by Colton Tran. I've never seen any of his films before. Notable actors and actresses in this, you have Bonnie Aarons, who plays a small role as a gas station attendant. She is the nun, if you don't know who she is. And then you have Randy Couture. He has done The Expendables, that last Expendables. Just completely awful. He's in this film, and it follows a group of teenagers who are filming a documentary at this campsite, and they're investigating this urban legend. And what happens is they end up ringing this bell, and they open up this portal for demons, and they start to get possessed. And you have Randy Couture, who actually goes around, and he is going around to kill all these people that are demon possessed. And I will say this, he has this axe that he's carrying around, and he chops people up, and you see in the beginning of the film that he does this, and it seems like, oh, he's the bad guy, right? Well, in this film, he isn't the bad guy, and every time people actually ring this bell, they're opening the whole portal to hell and Satan can end up possessing all these different people. And I will say in this, the effects, they're okay. I will say that some of like the demon eyes and stuff, it was a little bit goofy. There were a few parts where I was laughing because Randy Couture is actually carrying around this axe, and so that's how he kills people. And there were parts where I was like, oh man, they look like they got that axe from like the dollar store or something. It was making me laugh, just a couple scenes where you noticed it, and then there were other scenes where I was like, okay, it kind of looks real there, but there are certain scenes where they had that. The comedy in this film, it didn't really land for me. There are definitely parts in this film where I felt like it wasn't, it wasn't full-fledged horror. It definitely had some comedy in it. There was a part in here where one of the girls that's, being survived at this point, she goes up to Randy Couture and she's like, oh, well, I'm not a virgin, I've had sex with girls before, that makes me, that makes me a virgin. And I'm like, I'm not laughing at that. That wasn't really funny. So just like little moments like that, it's not a scary movie. It definitely has its moments with its kills and stuff. Acting, I would say, is not the greatest. It's not completely terrible like an Asylum movie or anything like that, but it definitely isn't that great of acting. I would give the film a 2 out of 5, but it's just a meh film. It mildly entertained me at points, but I definitely was bored at points. Not scary, like I said, but there were moments of like the kills and stuff and some of the blood, which was pretty cool at points. But overall, as far as like a story, I really didn't really care for the story all that much. And the last movie that I saw is directed by Marcus Adams. It is a thriller action film, and it is called Deep Fear. This was sent to me by Gravitas Ventures for a screener, so thank you guys for sending this over to me. It has a woman named Naomi. She is in the Caribbean, and she set out to go on this trip to go meet up with her boyfriend Jackson. A storm approaches, and she gets blown off course, and she ends up going away from this storm, and she ends up seeing this shipwreck with these two different people that are on the ship. And then there's also a shark at the bottom of the ocean. It didn't have a plot actually written on IMDb. This is not to be confused with the Tubi Deep Fear that was released in 2022. Completely different film. I definitely want to reiterate that because I was confused when I was looking it up. I was like, is there two Deep Fears? Like what year did this come out? But it is being released this year. It just came out on VOD this past Friday. So with this film, I will say that this film had a lot going on. You have this woman who she's looking good, definitely looking good in here. She's like a character that, she's having some issues, I would say, within her relationship. She's this yacht woman and trying to be independent and all that stuff. And when she comes across these two people, they basically want to take over her boat. And they have some other things that are hidden down in the ocean. They have some drugs, so they are drug dealers as well. Then you have the shark that is involved, which I will say the shark looks okay. You can tell it's CGI and all that stuff. There is a few little bloody moments within the film, but I just felt like there was a lot going on. I didn't really get attached to the characters. I also thought it was really funny when they actually dive underwater and they're trying to actually fetch this cocaine that is down in the bottom of the ocean. And the woman, when she's down there and when she gets out, because obviously she just went diving, her makeup is just completely perfect. I mean, it was just super strange that they have that in the film. It was mildly entertaining, kind of a little bit boring, to be honest with you. I didn't really feel like there was a lot of thriller action to it. A couple shark scenes where, I wasn't really exactly on the edge of my seat, but, I was kind of like, okay, well, what's going to happen here? Is the shark going to get him? Is the shark not going to get him? Some moments in there with bloody moments with the shark, which is, that's cool. There's a part where the shark jumps out of the water and you can obviously tell it's CGI, not a real shark. Not terrible CGI, but, not the greatest as well. Overall, it wasn't that entertaining of a movie, and I can say that I won't watch it again. It doesn't have a very good score on IMDb either. I would give it a score of 1.5 out of 5. It just wasn't that entertaining. Again, there's too much going on in this, and I just felt like overall, I never really latched onto any of the characters. And the film doesn't allow you to actually get latched to the character. It's not a long movie. It's only about 84 minutes. So it goes pretty quickly, and just the mild action that it has, throughout, it's just not that great of a movie. So I can't really recommend it, unfortunately. So I would only give a score of that of 1.5 out of 5. But let me know in the comments, what do you guys think about any of these movies? If you've seen them, have you heard of them? Are any of them interesting to you to go check out? Let me know down in the comments. Thank you guys for watching, and I will see you guys on my next review.